Netanyahu has not gone too far, according to Oliver Dowden. Israeli attacks on Gaza are not going too far, according to the Deputy Prime Minister. In the midst of a very difficult situation, the UK remains committed to supporting Israel's right to self-defense, according to Oliver Dowden. However, he emphasized the significance of exercising restraint in order to reduce the number of civilian casualties. Lord Cameron, the Foreign Secretary, has recently changed his tone on the war by calling for a sustainable truce in Gaza, the elimination of the threat of Hamas in Israel and indeed the wider Middle East is a prerequisite, according to Mr. Dowden's Sunday statement. Those demanding a ceasefire at this time fail to understand the stance of the UK government, which is that a ceasefire cannot be sustained unless we address the issue with Hamas. He stated, Israel needs to be careful. Despite U.S. President Joe Biden's warning last week that Israel was losing support from allies over the thousands killed in Gaza, he denied that the hardening of language was caused by the belief that Israel has gone too far in its response to the attacks on October 7. I wouldn't characterize it as Israel going too far, Mr. Dowden said while speaking on Sunday with Laura Quensberg on BBC. A very difficult situation has arisen for Israel. Your viewers must always keep in mind the magnitude of the Israeli atrocities, but they must also keep in mind that when confronting an enemy that conceals itself among civilians and under hospitals, a significant number of civilians will be casualties. He continued, the message from the UK government is that Israel must demonstrate restraint. Along with German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock, Sunday Times co-author Lord Cameron pleaded for peace lasting for days, years, generations, expressing his deep concern over the loss of life among civilians. Only radicals like Hamas desire to keep us mired in a never-ending spiral of bloodshed, where innocent lives are sacrificed in pursuit of their intolerant ideology, they stated. However, putting a stop to fighting today cannot be our sole objective. We need a lasting peace that will endure for generations, not just days. So, we're in favor of a truce, but only if it can last. When asked about the implications, Mr. Dowden stated, well, any ceasefire will not ultimately be sustainable unless we deal with the threat of Hamas from Israel and the wider Middle East. You saw what happened on that terrible day on October 7 when Hamas managed to breach the Israeli border and slaughter 1,400 men, women and children indiscriminately. That is why we will not stop backing Israel's right to self-defense, to end the threat from Hamas and rescue the hostages. Those are the two conditions necessary for a lasting truce. Lord Cameron is totally correct. We always knew that the conflict in Gaza would be difficult, Mr. Dowden stated. Regarding the broader ceasefire point, he stated, nonetheless, we do continue to urge restraint, abiding with international law. At the same time, we're trying to ensure that we get as long a period to the pauses in hostility to allow that aid in. Lord Cameron was absolutely right to demand a sustainable ceasefire. According to Labour's Shadow Health Secretary Wes Streeting, the question isn't whether any of us want a ceasefire. Of course people want to see an end to this bloody conflict. I said that while speaking to Sky News Sunday Morning with Trevor Phillips. He called the losses in Gaza intolerable and asked, the question is how do you get from where we are today to where we want to be? Thereafter, I agree with David Cameron that a sustainable ceasefire should be discussed.